This is Michael Poulsen of Volbeat and Asinhell. You're watching Sonic Perspective.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another interview of Sonic Perspectives. I'm Rodrigo, and today I'll be talking to the metal Elvis himself, Michael Poulsen. Hey, man, thank you so much for joining us.
All good, thank you.
Yeah, well, we're here to promote your new band and new album, Asinhell. But before we get into that, you're on tour right now with Volbeat, right?
Yes.
Where exactly are you today?
Where are we?
Atlantic City.
Atlantic City.
Oh, very cool, very cool. And how's the tour going so far?
Really good, really good. All shows has been great. The fans has been great, so nothing to complain about. The tour has been amazing. We got a great opening band in Hailstorm with us, so yeah, everything's good.
Awesome. So when it comes to Asinhell, the debut album is called Impiora, which means ungodly hour in Latin. Tell me how this project came to be.
Well, since, I don't know, maybe people know that back in the days I was playing death metal when I was way younger than I am now. I'm 48 now,
yeah.
But back in the days, I believe I was, I don't know, 15, 16, 17 playing death metal. And I think I was around 13 when I discovered extreme music. So back in the days, I had a band called Dominus. We were releasing 2 demos. I believe it was 4 records. Where some of the first recordings were death metal, old school death metal. And the love for death metal has always been there. The thing was, when I ended Dominus, I had so many ideas that where a lot of styles were included, which really didn't belong in death metals, and that became Volbeat. And I became so extremely busy writing for Volbeat and touring and being in the studio, everything that comes with it, that there was never really time for having a second project doing death metal. And even though that I'm still extremely busy in Volbeat, I also have 2 small kids now. I, for some reason, found the time also to do this Asinhell project. But I guess, there's a time for everything, and it's just time for me now to finally do this project. For many years, the people in the scene and media has been asking when I'm going to return to death metal. And I always said, I don't know. It's going to happen one day, but when, I totally don't know. So when I wrote the last Volbeat record, Servant of the Mind, I did that during the pandemic. I was at home like everybody else, so there was time just to sit and concentrate on writing. I quickly wrote the Servant of the Mind album for Volbeat. It took me like 3 months, and I was still very pumped up with energy and inspired. So a few riffs was being put in the safety death metal box at home.
Right. And
we went on tour to promote Servant of the Mind with Volbeat. And before we did that, my good friend LG Petro passed away, the frontman of Entombed. And he did try to call me few days before he passed, but I wasn't able to pick up the phone, so I was pretty bummed about that. So we ended up dedicating our song Becoming for LG, and on that song we have this bass pedal that every Swedish bands are using to create that ugly, beautiful, distorted sound that became the Swedish signature sound. And I just asked my guitar tech if because we were on tour, if he could order that pedal on the net, because I might just sit backstage and do some ugly distorted riffing. And he said, "Are you going to do that death metal project now?" I said, I don't know. It's just I'm inspired. It could be fun maybe to have a few more riffs like that. And just as I was talking about it, my iPhone start playing out of nowhere, start playing Entomb, the track Full of Hell.
Wow.
So I took that as a sign from LG from the other side, pretty much telling me it's time, Michael.
Right.
So I got really inspired by that. So when I came home after touring, I just started writing. And every now and then I'll hook up with my good friend Morten, who only lives like 10 minutes away from me. Our children are playing together. And I saw that he had his drums in his small garage. And because now and then he's rehearsing for Raunchy, the band he's in. And I kindly just asked him if he wanted to put down some drums on some old school death metal riffing that I had. And he said, "I'm totally into it. Let's do it." And he said, "Where do you want to rehearse?" I said, "Right here where we're standing in your small garage. Let's no fancy pantsy stuff. Let's just get to work. Do it like we did when we were 16. No PA system, no mic ups, and nothing. I just brought a small amp and an old guitar from my basement that I was using back in the Dominus days, and we just cranked it all up to 10, and we just started rehearsing, and it came to be that every Friday we'll be rehearsing for a couple of hours before I had to pick my kids up at kindergarten and school, and before he had to pick up his kids. And so Friday became Death Metal Friday. So,
Right.
and before we knew, we had material for a whole album. And I was just about to register my own label together with our management Q Prime, to thinking about releasing it on my own label. And it just happened to be that Q Prime really good friends with Brian Slagle, and when they heard I was working on this death metal project, Brian was listening to it and he said, "I want to release that." So when I heard that, I was like, woohoo! It doesn't get better than that. Legendary Brian Slagle. We all know his story, and so ending up signing to Middle Blade with Brian Slagle was a dream come true. I remember back in the days being a young dude trying to get a record deal with Dominus and tape trading and all that stuff, and so finally being on the metal label with a metal band, that was great. So I ended up calling Mark Grave from the legendary Morgoth, and he's now active in Insidious Disease. He's been my very good friends for many, many years. We also knew each other when I was doing Dominus, and we always talked about old school death metal. It's just sharing the interest and love for old school death metal, and we also talked about one day we should go together and do a death metal project, old style. So but he said, you're so extremely busy in Volbeat. When is that ever going to happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but I always kept my promises, so it will happen. Just you'll wait, and I'll give you that call when time is up. And so I called him and I said, "It's time." And Mark said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I got material for a whole record. Are you ready?" "Hell yeah, I'm ready. Let's get to work." So I said, "Should we send any kind of demo material?" Because he lives in Germany, and then Mark said, "Just record it from the garage. That's fine." "Oh, all right. You asked for it. It's going to be one hell of a mess." And he said, "That's perfect."
Old school, eh?
Yeah. Old school. So just for Mark to hear the structure in the music, I was putting down some demo vocals, just yelling and screaming down to my iPhone, so he could get some kind of inspiration from that. He said, "That's perfect. That's just how I did it back in the days with Morgoth, just a tape recorder." And that was how we we recorded our rehearsals, and yeah, before we knew, we had material for a whole album that we booked Jacob Hansen's studio, and Jacob ended up playing bass on the record, and Fleming Lund is playing the lead guitars, the solos. I've been knowing Fleming since back in the days with Dominus, since Dominus was playing with Autumn Leaves, which was Fleming's band at that time. Now he has a band called the Arcane Order, and I just heard some of his works in the Arcane Order, and the thing was, Raunchy has also been using him as a stand-in guitar player, and he's also been in Invocator, which was Jacob Hansen's band. So I was very, very familiar with Fleming, and I just heard his work, and it was amazing. I gave him a call and said, "Are you up to doing some solos on some old school death metal?" He said, "Hell yeah, I would love to."
Yeah.
And then, we have a record coming out 29th of September on Metal Blade Records. I'm very proud of it. You can definitely hear the old school inspirations from bands like Death and Ball Thrower, Autopsy, Grave, Entomb, Dismember, Gorefist, early Dark Throne, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very proud of it, and there's gonna be a few singles coming out before the whole album is being released.
Good stuff. And one thing I liked is how raw the album sounds. I mean, you can tell it's an album done on present day, but it sounds like it was written in 1986. I mean, Possessed comes to mind, that first Possessed album.
Yeah, well, Possessed was also one of the first really extreme bands I discovered and were listening to. I also remember some of the first extreme bands I was listening to was Battery, some Creator, but Possessed, yeah, Seven Churches, when that came out, it was like, what the fuck is going on here?
Exactly.
This is great. It was just next level. And later on, Death came and kind of did it to perfection, where you can say, yeah, maybe Possessed kind of planted the seed for what was about to become death metal, but Chuck Schuldiner just took it to the next level.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, there's some unique moments on the album, which I would love for you to comment. The first one being the great solo on Island of Dead Men, which I really liked. And also it's a very catchy song, something you don't hear on death metal very often, right?
Yeah, it was actually one of I think it was the second song I actually wrote for the album, and we had this slow part in the track, which I called our autopsy part. And
right.
So when I was talking to Fleming about the solos and Isle of the Dead Man, I said that we have this breakdown that's and even before I said it, he said, yeah, autopsy, like, yeah, exactly. So if you can think about that when you put down the solo, that'll be great. I said, totally, I totally get where you're going. So it ended up really good.
Yeah. And one of the craziest moments for me is the breakdown on The Ultimate Sin, where you just kind of switch gears for a moment there. Again, quite different from the usual death metal barrage that we listen to, right?
Yeah, it's all in there. It's I don't think we're doing any specific unique things on this record. It's probably done so many times before in the early 90s, but that's the whole point. You can hear our inspirations, and some of those breakdowns could be, get you back to some of the death recordings, but maybe by time we will be able to hear that we actually have our own sound in there.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a personality there that we can hear, but you mentioned the death influence. For example, on Trophies, that is very much in your face. Like you can't deny it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to deny anything. We were inspiration with a lot of pride. So it's
of
all.
Course. Yeah. And on the last song, I don't know if I can pronounce that correctly, but it's Foi for Helvede. It seems to be a kid singing. I'm assuming it's one of your kids, right?
Yeah, it's my daughter.
Okay.
She's 6 years old. So yeah, she's it's a Danish line, Foi for Helvede. We just made this very short track in the studio, having some fun, and
Yeah.
how to translate it into direct English is a little bit tough because you can't really transfer it into to English. It's foil is something when it's so disgusting that you can comprehend it, or you don't want to see it, you don't want to hear it, you don't want to taste it. It's just so fucking disgusting. So you go foil. And for helvede, it means in hell.
Okay.
So, so sometimes if we see something we don't like, we go fight for helvede. Or
Okay.
if we taste something we don't like, we say fight for helvede. Or we see something horrible going on that almost you cannot even open your eyes, you will go fight for helvede.
Very fitting with the lyrical context.
So,
Yeah.
so I was in my car and just came up with this idea, and I asked my daughter, Ia, can you say to daddy's iPhone, can you say fight for helvede? And she said, but Dad, that's a swear word. I'm not supposed to talk like that, but for the next 10 seconds you can do that. And I recorded it, and then Jacob Hansen, the producer, just mixed it into that small part of music.
Right. Well, as a father myself, I get a good laugh with the comments my daughter makes of my playing. But what do your kids think of your music?
They're really into Volbeat. For some reason they are very dialed in for the Volbeat music. About Asinhell, that my boy, even though that he's only a little over 2 years old, he seems to dig it.
Wow.
Yeah, because when I put it on, he automatically just starts to headbang, and he does this with his mouth, like.
Right.
Where Ia, she's definitely more into Volbeat.
Right. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. And I know you use Gibson a lot on the Volbeat songs, I think primarily, right? When it comes to Asinhell, what guitars did you use to record the album?
Well, I did in the rehearsal room, I did start with a actually my first guitar, it was called Mad Axe. But it was so damaged by time and stuff that I couldn't really continue playing on that. So I just, start playing the Gibson guitar, and that's so all the Asinhell tracks are also been recorded on the Gibson.
Okay, cool. And speaking of Volbeat, Rob Caggiano left the band somewhat unexpectedly a few weeks ago, and you have your buddy Fleming Lund filling out. He's doing an amazing job from what I've seen, but what was the process to select him and bring him on board? I guess you guys are friends from other bands, right? Like you said.
Well, that's a statement on the net, and that's I can't go into too much details.
Sure.
But the thing was, 3 weeks before tour, we suddenly became a 3-piece, and of course, for us, it was actually let's just go out as a 3-piece. This is the situation we are in now, but at the end of the day, when we were sitting down and was about to do the set list, of course, we became a little bit handicapped. So, there was different options to who we were going to give a call to help us out. But since I already worked with Fleming and knew Fleming, I gave him a call, even though he said, I have no idea how Volbeat sounds like. He's only into death metal. But so he said, I just have to listen to a lot of Volbeat records, I guess. Of course, he knew Volbeat. Everybody knows Volbeat in Denmark, but he was not listening to Volbeat. So he said, give me a few days just to actually figure out what you guys are playing, besides the stuff that you hear in the radio. And he took up the challenge, and we made an agreement, and he's helping out Volbeat for this year. Right.
Well, from what I heard, the shows have been great, like I said. But yeah, and honestly, I'm surprised and happy with your success in North America. Was this a surprise for you as well when it started to happen? I mean, you guys continue to sell out arenas everywhere you go here.
Well, we are so much aware of how much time and sacrifice that we are going through being on the road constantly. So it's nice to see that when you come back, you're having more ticket sales and everything is getting bigger, and the amount of work that we put into it is crazy. So of course, seeing that so many people are showing up for the Volbeat shows are great. You know, I don't think you can say that we expect anything. We just love what we're doing, and it seems like even though that the band has been around for a very long time now, there's still newcomers to the Volbeat music, and we are very thankful for that.
Yeah. Well, and I got to know Volbeat when King Diamond played a song with you guys, Room 24, right? As a King Diamond and now a Volbeat fan, I have to ask you, what was it like to record with him? I mean, he's a Scandinavian icon at this point, right?
Absolutely, yeah, he's a legend. That was a dream come true, and I'm still all up in the air about it, even though that it's so many years ago. King I also been knowing and talking to for many years, and him suddenly being part of a Volbeat record was something I could not even imagine, because his style and everything seems to be maybe too far away from what we do in Volbeat. But then at the same time, all the different guests that we have and in Volbeat, why not also King Diamond? You know, so and I came up with this track that was definitely inspired by King Diamond. So it seemed like that was something that he could easily do. So when he came to one of our shows in Texas, you know, we talked about it, and he said, I would love to, you know, you guys are my friends, you know, we go way back, and I would love to do something with you guys. And what an amazing track, and what an amazing singer and personality, you know, all the respect for King Diamond.
Yeah, I keep hoping he'll join you guys on stage to sing that one eventually.
Yeah, you know, hopefully it happens one day.
Fingers crossed, yeah. Well, for my last question, we'll go back to Asinhell. I mean, would you guys consider a tour at some point and maybe a follow-up to In Peoria, or is that in the cards?
Yeah, next year we are supposed to play live shows. So now I'm just about to finish the tour with Volbeat, and then I'm going home to Denmark to my kids and my wife, and then start doing some promo work for the Asinhell record. And then the whole idea is next year Volbeat would take a Sabbath year to write new material and record a new album. But at the same time, I will go out and play some live shows with Asinhell.
Excellent, man. Very cool. And I'm here in Toronto, where you guys just played a few weeks ago. Awesome show, by the way. And I hope I get to see you with Asinhell here as well.
Hopefully, yeah, that'll be fun.
Very cool. All right, thanks, man. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.